Alright, welcome back to Only Divergences. In this video, I'm going to point out the only potential trade you need to concern yourself with for the coming week. Okay, last week I pointed out a potential short trade in Upstart. Go check out that video. I'll put the link on the top right. The stock was down as much as 13% this week before a small bounce. Today, end of week puts were up as much as 1,000% or more. For those of you who have been subscribers for more than 1 week, you remember the Robinhood trade before that I outlined. That returned about 3,500%. I'll put a link to the video on the top right as well. Today I'm going to show you in this video the potential for another trade for next week that could produce similar results. If you're new to my channel, my analysis is focused usually on the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100, depending on which looks better for a trade, but I always like venturing out into interesting stocks that show potential, and I like to track stocks as well. So let's get right to it. Today is Friday, October 1st, 2021. I hope everyone had a great trading week after multiple red days in the market, well, the QQQ specifically. We had a small little kind of reversal day, potential reversal day, but no matter how it feels, we have to remain objective and unbiased in our opinion and put the move into context. Even the worst bear markets have big up days, and 0.5 is really not that big, but I think we're getting very close to one. So let's keep that in mind as we conduct our analysis. We are looking at a candlestick chart of the QQQ with the exponential moving averages, the MACD indicator, and the more sensitive DMI here at the bottom. I usually start off in the weekly time frame to provide context, but I'd like to get right into it because there's a lot to cover in this video. I'm going to get rid of the moving averages here. I'm going to get rid of the moving averages, and I just want to draw a trend line. Take a look at this level. This is the pre-COVID highs. If we go back and we ask ourselves, when's the last time QQQ touched that level? It was back here, so we'll start the trend line here, and look at this. Look at that support. This trend line has been perfect support. There, and we're now coming close to it. Now, trend line drawing is an art, not a science, so we could do this and it would still be valid, right? We don't have to draw a line that is perfect, and we don't have to wait for it to perfectly touch here. We're just putting this trend line here for context because we want to point out that we're very close to a potential support level. So keep that in mind as I do the rest of my analysis. Now, what I want to do is I want to compare the current move here, the current pullback, to this pullback here in March. Now, this one was a little sharper, it was a little more volatile, but the similarities are there. And I think it's important that we understand them as we move into next week. So on the right side, we have the current pullback. On the left side, we have the March pullback. First, we have to compare the MACD and look at the similarities. So we were up here quite some time, and then the MACD pulled down. You can see this negative histogram in red here. Similar, we were up here for some time, we pulled back, and now we've got very strong negative histogram here. Take a look at the DMI. We've got rising black, we've got one elevated green and a second elevated green, and we've got one low red and a second lower red. Well, let's go back to March. Rising black, one elevated green, second elevated green, red that's lower than the previous red. So the similarities are kind of eerie, right? But one thing I want to point out, just objectively, is that the red is very low here. So the relative risk reward of going short here to going long on an immediate time frame is actually diminishing. The only time we've been down here with red this low was the March low, the November low, which we exploded off after, and then the COVID lows. But even during the COVID lows, there were many green days. Let's not forget we had 8 and 10% days during that move. So we have the support from the trend line that we're getting close to. We have the similarities in March, and we have the fact that we are very oversold on the DMI. Now, before we move on to the hourly, there's one thing that I need to point out that makes me think that we are basically living in the matrix here because the similarities are very eerie. take a look at this. This week we had bad Tuesday, red Wednesday, red Thursday, and then Friday here we didn't gap down, we spiked down, and then we came back up and ended the day green. This is a Friday. Well, let's go back to the March lows. We had a Tuesday that was red, Wednesday, Thursday that was red, and then the Friday, take a look at the bottom there where it says March 5th, that was a Friday. We spiked lower, and then we ended the day higher. Look at that. It's a mirror image. So right now, just by looking at the setup, we see there is clear potential for the trade, right? Not only are we getting close to support, we're very oversold on the DMI, and we have a analog in the March move, which tells us that there is potential. Now, what do we want to look for? Well, we would want on Monday a move lower. If we get on Monday a move lower, that would mean, one, that the analog is continuing, but two, it would tell us that we're very oversold on the DMI. We're already very oversold, so the relative risk reward of going short at that point is very diminished. Now, you may think that this is interesting, and if on Monday we start to sell off into the close, you might want to buy, but in order to get a better understanding of the totality of this trade, we have to look at the hourly time frame and compare it to the hourly. So let's go all the way back to March. There's just really a couple things that I want to point out that I haven't already pointed out. First things first, you can see that we had a negative resistance trend line here. Okay, and similarly, today we have a negative resistance trend line here. Now notice that it was resistance, hit it, came down, spent some time here, and then when it hit it again, it was a real flush lower. Well, similar to here. We had it, it hit it, came down, and then when it hit it again, it was a real flush lower. Okay, another thing that I want to point out is, okay, let's say that Monday we do get this move here, and it's similar to this, we get a move here, right? Well, we would want to go long at the close, and then you have to ask yourself, well, where do you get out? Where do you take profits? Well, you would take profits at this resistance level, similar to how you did on the Wednesday at the open. So if we repeat perfectly, you want to buy on Monday at the close and sell on Wednesday at the open. So that's the trade basically as simply as I can put it. You see that the MACD here, when we came down here in March, we had a initial low, second low, but you can consider this one swift move lower, and then you had a second kind of flush out low. Here today we had a similar thing. We had a low, and then you have a second flush out low, and we could be looking to form some sort of nice divergence here on the MACD, come down here, and then move higher. So this is naturally in line with the limited downside potential that we should expect in the MACD at this point. We are now at a second low, right? Even today, I regretted not buying a few calls after the morning dip, since the technicals really are showing limited immediate downside from here. Like, could you imagine the MACD doing this? It's already come down quite a lot. In fact, why don't I just pull up the hourly here? Let's see how long I can do it, and see how many times has the MACD been this low. Right, see, like, could you imagine the MACD continuing lower like this? I mean, it's basically at a limit, right? Like, it's similar to here. Now this is, we were pretty sharp here, right? But as we were here, we were getting ready to move higher, and that's what I think we're doing right here. We're getting ready to move higher, and move higher to where? Just to this resistance line. So that's the entirety of the trade. Now again, this isn't financial advice. I'm not telling you to do anything. This is just how I see these lines in these charts, and I think it's interesting how they move. But if you find this trade compelling, I would caution against getting married to the idea. Okay? It's not a perfect analog, and markets don't repeat, they rhyme. If I don't get the type of pullback that I'm looking for on Monday, I'm going to abandon this trade. Even if it eventually does move higher. I need this to be perfect. I like perfect trades. That's why I like describing them so accurately. And just as we saw, 2 days ago, I was looking for a move in DraftKings. We got the move today. It didn't come down to the level that I wanted. But look, I'm going to be here with you, giving you structured ideas based on pure technical analysis all the time, okay? And we're going to play these markets together, okay? You just have to watch, subscribe, and like and comment, because I really appreciate that. So this is the trade basically summed up. I hope that it makes sense to you. I hope that you understand it, and I hope that you end up making a lot of money. I hope you found this useful and interesting. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you Sunday when I publish a video on Zoom. Take care.